We're here at Sports Central today, and we're going to fit a full hockey player from head to toe to make sure he's ready to go on the ice and play and have fun. So the first thing we're going to try on is either the jock or the Jill, so try that on. You should make sure that the jock's going to fit well. It's not too tight. If it's too tight, we got to go up a size. If it's too loose, we want to make sure we go down a size. It should just fit like a regular pair of shorts. The next piece you want to try on is the shin pads. So these have left and right on them. So you can typically tell here down on the bottom whether they're left or right, or they will say here on the side. You want to make sure that these are going to fit well with your knee and they're not going to be too long or too short at the ankles. Next thing you're going to try on is you're going to put on the socks. So the socks go over top of the shin pads. They have Velcro on the inside that will line up with the Velcro on the jocks. So you make sure these stick, and then what we'll do is we'll wrap sock tape around them to keep these from moving when you're playing. Next, we're going to wrap sock tape right around the middle here, and this just keeps the shin pads and the socks from moving while you're playing. Once you have the socks on and the jock, you want to try on your pants. You want to make sure you put your pants on before you put your skates on because you don't want to damage or tear or rip the pants. These pants, they should fit a little bit above the knee. You want a couple of fingers, but not too long. They should also fit comfortably around the waist so they're not going to fall off. What you can do if you find trouble with them, you can put suspenders on these pants. They typically have buttons on the front and on the back for some suspenders. They're all typically adjustable right in the middle as well as the lacing. But what's most important is that they fit right by the knee there, that they're not too long and they fit comfortably on the waist. Next, we're going to try on these skates, and this is probably the most important piece of equipment you're going to put on because you don't want to go too big where you're going to get blisters and your feet are going to move. You don't want to go too small where your toes are going to hurt after skating. All right. It's important when you're lacing up the skates that you make sure you're lacing from the toe all the way up to the top. And to get them off, you typically have to lace quite a bit down to get the tongue loose enough to get your foot in and out. With newer skates, you can get them heat molded. So you put your foot in, they put the skate in an oven, and then you'll put your foot in after it comes out, and they'll shape the skate to your feet. And this is most common on newer skates to kind of help with the wear-in process. When you're putting on your skates, there's two ways you can have your shin pads. You can have your shin pads inside like we have here, and this is the most common way of doing. You want to make sure that the shin pad lines up just to the tongue here. Any shorter, it means that if you get a puck, it can interfere, and you can get a nice little bruise right there. The other way you can wear these shin pads, you can wear these shin pads over top of the skate. And by doing that, you can add a little bit of extra length, and they can typically come down to right about here on the skate. So about one size difference. So if you get two large pads, you can usually wear them on top. If they're the right size, they should fit just right here, kind of where this top hole, top loops are on the skate. When you're trying on your skates at home, the key is you want to have enough room in here for about a finger's width on the heel. So either you can stick a pencil, you can try and stick your finger back there. You want to make sure your foot is all the way to the front and that you're right at the end so you can see how much space. The other option too is you can pull the insoles out of these skates and you can have your kids step on them on the ground and you can see how much space is left on there by lining up their toes. The last thing is when you have new skates, you want to make sure they're sharpened and ready to go. So you have to typically bring them to a shop to go get a nice edge put on them so when you step on the ice, you can skate forwards. The next piece is the shoulder pads, and these go right over top of the head. With shoulder pads, you want to make sure that it fits comfortably on the shoulders, that these pads line in roughly center with the shoulder. You also want to make sure that on the back, just turn a little bit, you want to show you on the back that's not riding up or sitting or floating. You want to make sure it's comfortable on the back. Turn it forwards. And then you want to make sure it fits okay on the stomach. It's okay to have a gap here. This is normal. Shin pads, shoulder pads don't come this long. So it's okay to have a gap there because usually when you get into your player position, like into your crouch position, you can see that gap kind of disappears when you're sitting down and you're ready to play. Next, we'll want to try on the elbow pads. So with elbow pads, they also have a left and right, just like the shin pads. Typically, you'll find them written here on the tag on the inside or somewhere on the outside. The other way to figure out is it's always going to be the most amount of padding on the outside. So you can see here, you got the hard piece here. This will be on the outside and the Velcro will be on the inside. So with elbow pads, you want to make sure that they're comfortable on the side. You don't have too much of a gap and they're not too loose. It is okay if they're long. If you find they're a little long, you can always undo the top strap of your shoulder pads, do up your elbow pads, and then redo up the top strap. Typically this will sit over top of the elbow pad. Next, you'll want to try on the jersey. Try that on. When trying on your jersey, what you want to look at is your sleeve length. You want to make sure it comes up right about to the wrist. If it's a little too short, then you know you want to get a bigger size. You also want to make sure that they can get it over their shoulder pads. Little kids might need some help getting this tucked over. As well as you want to make sure it comes long enough on the front. And then if it is too long, you can always tuck them in a little bit into your hockey pants. Next, you'll want to try on the neck guard. These just come in 2 or 3 different sizes, and they just help protect the neck from any skates or anything like that. They're not supposed to protect from a puck. They're typically going to be soft and malleable. Awesome, so you can see the neck guard covers his neck. With lengths, there's only really a couple of different lengths, so you're usually just gonna have to kind of work it in and you can bend it and kind of form it to what shape you want it. Next, you wanna put on your hockey helmet, and this is probably one of the most important pieces of equipment that you're wearing. This will protect you from any kind of hits or any concussions. What you wanna do is a lot of these helmets are adjustable. So this one here has clips on the side of them that you can pop up on both sides. And by doing that, the helmet can go larger or smaller. Much like other helmets will usually have screws on the side or a different form of clip system. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the chin is going to fit comfortably in the cage. If not, it won't protect you very much, but you can change the size of the cage if you find the helmet fits, but the cage doesn't. Try that on. Make sure you push down the clips. Perfect. There are several straps on your helmet you want to make sure you do up. You've got your, here, just turn a little bit. You've got your side straps for your cage. These get done up here. You want to make sure your cage sits comfortably in this bracket and that the chin sits comfortably in the cage. Turn this way. And then you have your chin strap. You want to make sure that this is going to be about 2 fingers worth of space in there. So he's got to tighten this up. Next, you'll want to put on your hockey gloves. When you have your gloves on, there's 2 things you want to look at. You want to look at your fingers and make sure you got enough room there. Your fingers should be close to the end, but not pushing through. And you don't want it too far back where you got a lot of space. Then the other thing you want to look at is your wrists and how much space you got. Gloves will typically come fairly long nowadays, whereas older gloves will come a little bit shorter. You just want to make sure that your wrist bone is covered. Anything further up is just extra protection, but isn't required. The next piece of equipment you're going to try on is the stick. So when you're on skates, you want to make sure your stick comes between your chin and your nose. If you're playing a forward position, you typically want the stick closer to your chin, hence you can keep the puck closer to your feet. Whereas your defense, you're going to want the stick a little bit closer to your nose, so when you're poke checking, you can really push out that stick and extend it. The other thing you want to look at for sticks is the flex. So the flex on the stick should be roughly half your body weight. So when you're looking at your stick, you also want to look at the flex, not just the height of the stick. The higher the flex, the stiffer the stick will be. From here, all you're going to need is still a hockey bag to put all your equipment in. These come in a couple of different sizes depending on what age you're at. You're also going to want some stick tape so you can make sure your tape is all taped properly. And you're also going to need some pucks and a water bottle and a mouth guard. Mouth guards you can buy at the store and they're pretty easy to do yourself, or you can go to your dentist and you get one made there as well. When taping your stick, there's lots of different ways you can do it. There's lots of videos online, but this is how I tape my stick. Usually what I do is I start on the back of the stick at the heel and I work my way forwards towards the toe, just overlapping slightly every time you come through a pass. So the purpose of the tape here is to protect your stick. These sticks are composite material and will split over time if you're not careful with them. It's also to make sure that the puck will stick to your stick when you're handling or when you're going down the ice. You can get puck wax or stick wax as well that you put on top of the tape, and this will help give it a little bit more grip. I will typically end the tape job on the heel of the stick as well. Now it's important that when you get to this stage that you can see that the tape's sticking up a little bit. What I will do is I will take the tape roll and I will simply just rub the tape in the direction that I've taped it. So I just take it like this. And he's going to rub out all the creases, all the folds, and try and get it as smooth sort of as you can so the tape doesn't come and undo itself. Perfect, just like that. Like I said, it's important that you're checking your tape periodically to ensure that the bottom here isn't getting ripped. Typically, you want to retape your stick every 1 to 2 games, kind of depending on how aggressive you're playing. But it's very important that you protect the stick as best as you can right around the blade of the stick, as this is the most fragile part of the stick and will typically split. All right. Now, the other part of the stick that you can tape is the top part. This is also kind of player preference, and there's lots of videos online of how people do it. I prefer to do it this way here, where you first start by wrapping the top a bunch of times to create a little bit of a nub here to kind of with the help with the hands. For this, you can also use grip tape instead of stick tape, and grip tape just gives it a little bit more grip It's kind of like a tacky material that helps your gloves catch onto it a little bit. So once you kind of create a little bit of a nub here, what you can do is you can pull the tape out and twist it. And just twist it several times until you make a little bit of a string. Perfect, and then you can wrap that around the stick to almost create a little groove for your fingers to go when you're holding it. So I just kind of go around like this. Right on down to there. Perfect, and then you just got to tape your way back up to cover it. Perfect, and when you're done, you just rip the tape on the top, kind of push down the ends as best you can to try and keep the tape from coming apart. And you are good to go on the ice. Now that you're all fitted, you're all ready to have some fun and play on the ice and score lots of goals, and hopefully come back as an NHL player. When packing away your equipment at the end of your game, make sure that you're wiping your skates to ensure you don't get any rust buildup, and that when you get home that you make sure you find a place, whether it's in the garage or somewhere where you can let your equipment breathe and dry out. It's important that you let this breathe to help prevent any kind of odor from staying. If you do find your equipment does smell, you can buy a deodorizer, which helps both disinfect it and cover the smell of the equipment. Please don't use Febreze. Make sure that you're using chemicals that are specifically approved for hockey equipment, as you don't want to degrade the material.